Hello. I took a video down this afternoon because I'd got things very wrong, and I don't like being wrong, and I don't like keeping stuff up if I know they're wrong, so I just deleted the video. And the video I had deleted was a video in which I was talking about the Queen's dresser, Angela Kelly, who was, it seems, being booted out of her house at Windsor, having lost her job with the late Queen's demise. Just to remind anybody watching this from outside Britain, you have to be very careful about the British class system. I remember once being in an argument with, well, not an argument, it was a heated discussion with an American lady who was saying how anti-democratic Britain was. And I said, well, how? And she said, well, look at the House of Lords. And I said, what about it? And she said, well, it's full of lords, isn't it? And she had no idea that most of the lords were people who had been created lords because of the work they'd done, the charitable works, the legal work, all that sort of thing. But she didn't understand that. And I just want to remind you that Ms. Kelly was actually a Liverpudlian docker's daughter, and she got to dress the Queen and be a friend of hers and get a house on the Windsor estate. Hard as it is not to see things in the way that Hollywood portrays royalty, I mean, that was part of the problem with Meghan Markle, wasn't it? She had the idea that being a princess involved, you know, ordering people around and just being fabulous all the time, when in fact it's nothing like that at all. Despite the fact that I wouldn't mind some of their money. Anyway, yeah, it's the way that Hollywood portrays royalty is really very inaccurate, and you have to bear in mind that in many ways it is a meritocracy despite its aristocratic framework. But on to the video I put up, and it was based on my shock at the news that was being reported in several newspapers, by the way, that Miss Kelly had been booted out of her Windsor house. And she'd been there for the past 25 years since she started working for Her late Majesty. And that was all the news I had to go on. And I made a very angry video about how the royal family keep letting their servants and friends down. Then, during the day, after the video had been uploaded, I got several comments pointing out that news had emerged that the King had actually bought another place for the lady, and she'd chosen the Peak District, which is in Yorkshire, because Yorkshire, you know, the best place in the world, because that would be nearer her own family. It just happens also to be astonishingly beautiful. I speak that as a proud Yorkshire woman. That's lovely, and I'm very happy about that. It was the correct thing for the King to do. So why did I believe? I mean, in previous times, I would have said, no, that's just not possible. They wouldn't have thrown anyone out like that. But I believed that original story. Why? Because of the Lady Hussey incident. That's why. And there's an object lesson in that, isn't there? Trust is something that's painstakingly built up over a very long period of time, and then it's lost in an instant if you show that your heart isn't really in it. William, I'm still angry with William about that note. He said, you know, racism will not be tolerated. Just in case you haven't kept up with this, Lady Hussey was a sort of meter and greeter at a reception being held at Buckingham Palace, and the guest of honour was Camilla, the Queen Consort. And she was questioning a very strange looking lady about her origins, and it was probably most likely because she wanted to make sure before she introduced somebody like that there would be that there was some proper information on her. And the lady in question, a woman called Marlene Headley, although she went under a cooked up African name a lot of the time, she was very obstructive in her answers, which forced Lady Hussey to ask more questions. And then, of course, Miss Headley published the conversation. Well, her version of the conversation, we still don't know if it was an accurate version. And that caused a bit of a storm. And when that storm erupted, Prince William, who was at the time, I think, in the West Indies, just fired off a letter about racism will not be tolerated in the royal family. You know, Lady Hussey had been found guilty and condemned before there'd been any sort of an inquiry. So that was very bad, and it gave me a very bad impression of him. You know, his wokeness was strong with that one. And so any hint of anything untoward, and immediately he assumed the worst. And I still have a bad opinion of him for that. And I'm Granniopteryx. I'm on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. I let you know when I've uploaded a new video on Twitter and Gab. In both cases, all the links are in the description. You can contribute financially to this channel. It does help. But one of the best things you can do is just like this video, share it, and subscribe to my channel. If you are on YouTube, just check you're still subscribed, because occasionally YouTube just drops subscriptions for no apparent reason. All right, I think I've covered all the angles now. Right, back to the royal family. Anyway, there's no doubt that I trust the royal family now as an institution less than I used to. Now, let's get on to an idea, because I can make use of this extra video now by talking about a new tradition the king seems to have thought up. According to tradition, the peers of the king all are supposed to make an oath of loyalty to the new monarch. Oh no, let's open this up to the general public, thinks the king. And him or someone in his office had the idea that it would be more inclusive to have the whole of the British population make the oath. So at a certain point, we're all going to intone an oath of loyalty to the king like we used to intone prayers at school. Now, as you know, anyone who's watched my videos knows that I'm proud of Britain and I'm glad I'm British. Will I make the oath? Probably not. It's not that I wouldn't be loyal to the king or to this country. It's just embarrassing. We Brits never did go in for that sort of thing. We never did make a show of our loyalty. You may say that's a bit of a problem, but actually that's the way, that's the national character. I think it was in the 18th century, the word enthusiasm was a criticism. People criticised people for showing enthusiasm because it meant you weren't thinking logically or anything. So we sing God Save the King on appropriate occasion, but wearing our hearts on our sleeves about our loyalty, that doesn't work round here. You know, the first thing a Brit notices when going to America is all the flags on the front lawns and hanging from roofs and things like that. You never see people flying flags around here except on specific occasions. And maybe the St. George's flag when there's a football match, England versus somebody or other, some country or other. But it's just not in our national characteristic. You can criticise it or you can say that's a very good thing, but that's the way we are. It's just not our way. I would support the king as a representative of our country, as the focus of our country's ideals. But would I swear an oath to him as a man, a person of this country like any other? No, it smacks to me too much of worship. Well, so that's the way I feel about it. Unless I change my mind in the next few days, you know, carried away by the pomp and ceremony of the occasion, but right now that's how I feel about it. All right, till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the granniopteryx design or Granbo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.granniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.